everybody has now a digital footprint. No matter how big, how small you try and make it, it still exists,
Mhm.
and it's spread across the entire digital universe, right? It's literally everywhere, and it can be. There's a whole bunch of different ways it can be misused, right, by people who are not your friends.
Hello, everyone. This is Larry, and welcome to another episode of Larry's Pod. Today, we are here with Alex Korshak, and he's a very special guest to me. And I'm super happy to have him with us here today. We met each other like 5 years ago, probably, and he was part of the core team on our very first client at Striver. And since then, our relationship has been getting better and better, and today I'm here and we are happy here to listen and learn from him on privacy, security, and practicality, topics that since I can remember were on top of your head and you were always pushing and trying to make everyone aware of the importance of it. So, hello, Alex. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hello, Larry. Good to see you. I'm great to be here. I'm doing well, and yeah, I have been banging on about this particular subject for forever, really. So I'm happy to be sharing today.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I can tell that for sure. So yeah, let's get into it, and maybe everyone in today's world are like using products, and also you have the chance of being on the other side, like developing products, and we all know the importance of like security. But also, when probably developing, we are more aware of also how to make things work and to be practical for users. So, how do you balance, like from your perspective, experiences? How have you been balancing and making sure that everything goes well, and you can also provide a good product or service for customers, basically?
Sure. I think that, security, we talk about security and privacy and
Hmm.
usability as things that are at war with each other, if you like, at odds with each other. And I think security and privacy and usability are really, they're all the same side of the coin, if you can have three sides of a coin. Because strong security measures like, encryption and access control and monitoring are, they're key to what we do, and they're also key to user privacy. I mean, we're all in that, um, and I don't think there has to be a trade-off with usability either. I don't think it's the either or. You either make it really easy or you make it really secure.
Hmm.
And there's examples where this is done really well, like Face ID when that came out, right? Uh, Pretty painless, but also secure at core, really. And unobtrusive. Like, Face ID just works and nobody has to think about it in detail. It's up to the people implementing it, which is a great, example of how, security can work without really impacting anybody but benefiting them. Um,
Yeah.
and so,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but that's also happening, like, and probably product owners and like more thoughtful people on the product are who are being in charge of like developing that Face ID or that part of the product that makes it super simple and easy to use. I guess finding that right piece of software that makes it look easy is like a challenging side to this too, right?
It is. And I think that uh, part of the battle is really explaining to everybody and understanding why it even matters.
Hmm.
And I think I got some things to say about that, because I think that's something that everybody questions, especially the harder something looks like it's going to be. Um, you know, security is all well and good, and it sounds great until like your cloud provider says that they're going to mandatorily encrypt everything in storage, and you need to deal with that. And you have 2 weeks. That's that makes life a bit trickier.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I feel that, and you drove me to one specific thing I've been thinking a lot, which is like in today's world, everything is like leaving like a digital footprint, and it's like that's expanding over time. So I'm also aware and thinking multiple times who should be most concerned about privacy and security issues, right? Because on one side you are developing the product, but on the other end you are the user who don't want to expose your data that easily. So what are your thoughts? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, you said it, right. I mean, everybody has now a digital footprint. No matter how big, how small you try and make it, it still exists,
Hmm.
and it's spread across the entire digital universe, right? It's literally everywhere, and it can be. There's a whole bunch of different ways it can be misused, right,
Yeah.
by people who are not your friends. And it can be misused deliberately, and it can be misused, just by negligence as well. In terms of identity theft, which is a very serious crime that doesn't have an owner as
Hmm.
far as law enforcement goes, at least in this country. I'm sure people listening to this have been know somebody, if they haven't been a victim themselves, who's had an identity theft incident.
Yep.
Very tricky and very, very impactful to your life for years afterwards. It's an ongoing kind of thing. Manipulation, discrimination, all of these things can happen based on the data associated with you, rightly or wrongly, and whose hands it's in without your knowledge. And I think that it's really, the data is your data. It's about you, and it's yours. It's part of you. It's not anybody else's, and it certainly shouldn't be for sale without your say so. If that's exactly where we find ourselves right now. Um,
Yeah.
and it's kind of daunting when you think about it. And I know plenty of folks say there's so much out there right now
Hmm.
that it's really, there's nothing that you can do about it. So you might as well just give up because it's done. And I think that's not very positive, really,
Yeah.
as an approach to take. And it's not like the idea that if you've done nothing wrong, you have nothing to hide. That's a false idea. I think that's kind of been proven time and again. Uh,
Hmm.
and the thing is, it is a very daunting situation, but that doesn't mean there's nothing at all you can do. I think, I'm a big proponent of incremental everything, really, like
Hmm.
especially in software development.
Hmm.
And, you can incrementally make changes to definitely improve your situation. And I think sometimes what makes it daunting is that we don't look at the scope of what we're talking about
Hmm.
in terms of like uh, our personal influence over what we can do about our personal situation, as opposed to the larger global macro situation, which most of us don't have direct influence over at all,
Yeah.
beyond
Yeah.
coding.
That makes sense, and that kind of answers one of the questions that I was going to ask you, which is like, what actions, like, or steps do you recommend, like, because that's on probably the user side, but also on companies and on how to safeguard user information, right? Like, because also that might vary depending on the industry the product is on, and
Mhm.
sometimes you don't have a choice, like as a user, to provide some data in order to make the application work for you, or meet the purpose of it. So do you have like, I don't know, any other actionables or steps that you would recommend, or something from the user perspective that could help you, like, uh, be more prepared to what you shared to companies or services?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of us develop software in a company landscape, right? And the business's duty is to it's investors essentially, and not to privacy principles essentially. So, I mean, but still within that big picture, we have as software engineers, we have the ability to make design decisions and recommendations that are, you know, one way or the other inclined, if you like.
Hmm.
So, and we can definitely ask questions as well. I think if we're being free and easy with customer data in our sort of in our testing, for
Mm.
instance, um, that's a question that it's good to ask. Do we need to be this free and easy with this information? Because
Mhm.
one of the principles of privacy and technology is It's not least privilege, but it's like the amount of information that needs to be handled should be handled from a customer point of view. So I don't need to know chapter and verse about you, Larry,
Yeah.
and everything that's on file with your bank to be able to process, a checkout transaction if I'm selling you a T-shirt or whatever,
Mhm.
So um, I think that some individual awareness helps a lot. From a tool point of view, because we all love tools, there's lots of things that are coming out now that are, well, they're out,
Mhm.
that kind of really do a lot of heavy lifting for you, like machine learning tools that will
Mhm.
scan your data sets and they'll call out everything that looks like personally identifying information. And they'll say, and some of them will auto redact it,
Yeah.
or you can write your own routine to do that, which is more straightforward than I think it's ever been before.
Mhm.
You can actually take the data and you can redact it selectively based on the audience. So, like, I would only need to see maybe your phone number, whereas my colleague over there who's giving you a loan for a house might need to see a bit more. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you touch a hit point there, which is like artificial intelligence. That's right now, like, I guess, changing the world and making like super hard problems into privacy, security. I mean, everyone right now is concerned about what's being generated, if it's true or if it's not. The steal of identities, as you were saying before, and like there are many things that get things worse or good. It depends on how it's being used. But do you think that those technologies are a threat to user privacy, or just like something to work on and to use on our good side of things, like to make us more safe?
it really depends on like the what we do with them always, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was something I wanted to touch on at some point. But it's the technology itself is kind of neutral,
Mm-hmm.
but how we use it and where we go with it is that's where we tend to get into trouble,
Yep.
generally speaking, because we are focused always on making things work and making things better. First and foremost, that's what we do. We fix problems, and we build new stuff that's cool and exciting and advances science, etc. Um, but I think that sometimes we don't. Most of the time, we never pause to ask the question. Is this a good idea?
Yeah.
Because one thing that we know is we can build anything, right?
Mhm.
Pretty much anything at all. Um,
Yeah.
and I think we sometimes build something and then we look at it and we say, well, that was not a really great thing for anybody, really, aside from a couple people. And we all do it. We all kind of point the finger at certain companies and products, and the truth is, we all probably would have been part of building that without thinking either.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think there's an ethical dimension to this that is something that's missing, because privacy fundamentally is an ethical issue.
Mm-hmm.
And privacy and dignity is inseparable from dignity and freedom. And if you need a really graphic example of that, like an example of the place where there's the least privacy you'll ever have
Mm-hmm.
would be in prison, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, there's zero privacy there, and not a coincidence.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, it can happen that at first the product don't even think about that, or they seem to be like inoffensive until they see the power of having all the information, how to use it, how to manipulate kind of the data they have, and then use that on their favor, and forgetting about user privacy, how to be like not invading people's lives, basically. So I mean,
Hmm.
I agree with you. It's super annoying to see that sometimes it feels, or it seems to me, that they are not being conscious and taking the right steps onto how to use the data and not to invade your property, basically. So yeah, it's a
Yeah,
challenge, a day-to-day challenge, I would say. You have to be thinking about that every time.
Yeah, and it's I mean it's interesting with the war in Ukraine. I saw a briefing a while ago now from security analysts saying that there's obviously a very real traditional war going on with bullets and bombs
Mhm.
and
Oh yeah.
very very bloody traditional warfare, which is awful. But there was also an information war going on, unlike any other information war in the past.
Mhm.
And information's been used for war purposes for since the beginning of war, no doubt. But this was a different type of information war. The manipulation of data and information to influence masses of people in real time,
Mhm.
and by a whole range of different, not great people, nefarious actors, essentially.
Yep. Yep.
They said, this is the impact of this is hard to quantify, but it's huge, and it's an entirely separate front. Um,
Mhm.
So yeah, I thought that was kind of disturbing, and it's an extreme example. War, right?
Yep.
Most of us will hopefully never experience war, but that's
Yeah. It,
policies.
and it's easy like to spread because nowadays everything is interconnected, so it's just a matter of sending a message, saying something, getting people involved, that gets expanded over time and networks, and then it might be even false what it's being said, but the impact of that is massively high. So yeah, I agree, like every I mean, from my perspective, anything that we can do like to make us safe or secure or not like generate chaos, it's something to be completely aligned and conscious basically. Yeah,
Oh,
appreciate that, Alex. And
no
yeah,
worries.
I mean, we are getting overtime. I mean, not overtime, but close to the end of the time, and I want to be respectful of that. So I have one super important question to me that doesn't have to do much with the topic itself, but I love asking it, which is like on personal routines and habits and practices. What do you do like for implementing and ensuring a healthy work-life balance? Do you have any particular activity, something you do usually like to keep work and life in a good balance and shape?
I have a lot of hobbies.
Okay.
I have probably too many hobbies. In fact, I think people make fun of me for the number of hobbies I have because I seem to accumulate them.
That's a
So
problem.
it's slightly. I never lack for something to do.
Nice.
A friend of my family's. He worked for a long time until he was about his mid 70s, and then he retired, and he
Mhm.
had no hobbies. And I thought, I don't want to be that like that because that'll drive you nuts. You
Oh
have
yeah,
no idea what to do.
I agree.
Yeah. I have a number of hobbies. I do like. I continue to persevere with being a bad woodworker.
Mhm.
Um, and that's good because that's always a slightly humbling experience, um, and occasionally, a dangerous one.
Mm.
Um, but I still have my hands, so that's
Nice.
good. Um, I do like to cycle as well. I like to
Mhm.
get on my bicycle, drive right off. Um, I can do that. And I like to cook, and I'm now getting into specialty coffee as well, which seems like it's going to be like a rabbit hole that I'll get lost down, I'm sure.
Excellent. Sweet. And I guess you are like avoiding cameras on the streets while you are cycling. You are like watching, oh, this camera is pointing to me. It's not like they are collecting my data where I drive.
Well, it's funny you say that, but I don't think we have quite. It depends on where you are here, of
Oh,
course,
nice.
but we don't have quite some of the networks that exist in Europe,
Hmm.
for instance. There's some places like I know in London now. There's pretty much no square inch of that town you can walk around
Mhm.
without being photographed by everything.
Yeah.
And you can't speed apparently in the south part of the country because there's average speed cameras everywhere.
Oh,
So
yeah.
um, no matter they'll work out how fast you went between point A and point B, no matter what you do. And then if it's not the right number, it's yeah. So
That's funny.
not that I'm advocating anybody breaking the law, but there's it's nobody. I mean, if I said, do you mind if I put up cameras inside your house, in every room? Most people would say, that's no, thank you.
That makes sense. I
It's
mean,
not far off that.
knowing you, I would say so. So yeah. Excellent, Alex. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate your time for sharing also your thoughts, your experience, making the time to be with us today. And I'm sure for sure this will help people at least think, uh, be more conscious about this topic, which is like super important, from the role we have in the industry and the impact we make on the whole world. So yeah, I appreciate bringing this topic and sharing your thoughts with us. And yeah, I mean, oh yeah, you want to say something?
I was going to say, I mean, it can sound really dark and look really dark because I've even touched on some things that are not great. War. I think I talked about prison. Things that are not joyful. But I'm an optimist about this and a lot of other things as well because change is possible and change does happen, and it's happened, very recently and in a big way. In Europe with the GDPR,
Mm-hmm.
which took them from basically where we are today to a point where everybody cares about security now,
Yep.
in the business world because they've been compelled to. You can't not care about it, and there is a legislative aspect to making this change happen everywhere. And California had the good sense to take the GDPR and essentially copy it.
Yep. Yep.
Not a bad idea.
Absolutely. And it, after you have it implemented and running, there are also great benefits that even help you like standardize things, make your processes smoother, and while at the same time giving some level of warranties to users. So I do agree, some regulations are, regulations in general, they come for good. It's just a matter of like, before you didn't have it, so you didn't know what to expect, or you get like into your head like, oh, this is going to be a horror or a problem or whatever, and then it is not like that. So yeah,
Sure.
agree. I mean, that was a really good message, like to not be afraid and to not see this like as a dark side of things. I mean, it's part of the whole. But just, is there anything else that you would like to share with the people, promote, I don't know, give a message to the audience or something on top of your head?
No, thanks for having me. I think I've talked quite enough now.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Alex. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.